recording. Hey everybody, James Lester. You can see next to me, GTG, the pup in a sharp suit. Say hi everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Today, we'll be discussing Area 51 conspiracies and probably the raid that's going on right now on Twitch and that you see, and the moon landing conspiracies. Would you like to start?
Uh, okay, so as it pertains to the whole Area 51 raid, it's my understanding that there's already like a really popular YouTuber that's already been arrested.
There's been a couple
Did
people
you hear about
arrested.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was a real popular YouTuber out there that got arrested. To be perfectly honest, they're lucky they just didn't get shot down in waves. To be honest, first thing, ladies and gentlemen, is realistically speaking, no one's going to storm Area 51 to find alien corpses or any type of technology whatsoever. More than likely, if nothing else, the base itself is first off underground. Two, it's more than likely under Groom Lake, which is just a little ways off from where Area 51's at. It's kind of part of the general area. Any of you guys have played Nazi Zombies, for example, you know what I'm talking about. It's more than likely over there for good reason. More importantly than that, Area 51 is known for very highly publicized as a training area and a training and testing area. So you wouldn't want any civilians there anyway. Matter of fact, I think Lockheed Martin, amongst other places, are known for testing out a lot of their aircrafts and stuff like that over there, as well as weaponry. It's basically just a training facility for the most part. If any tests or anything is going on, it's underground, without a doubt. And so storming Area 51, all those hangars and the few buildings that are out there is useless, to be honest. You're only going to get yourself shot. So they're very fortunate that they didn't. My biggest thing, or the biggest thing that caught my eye about the whole Area 51 raid was, one, they really thought that the population was that stupid to go out there and Naruto run and expect to dodge bullets without any type of jutsus whatsoever. That's the first thing that I thought was funny. And secondly, some of these, let's just say some of these online publications and some of these other people being like, oh, it's going to be population control. Like millions and millions of people are going to go out there and try to do that. Like all of us are going to embrace our inner Uchiha and go out there and make shit happen. I'm sorry. I don't plan to go out there and use fire jutsu and whatnot on every tank that I see. I would let other people do that, and then I sneak around like a good ninja.
Exactly.
It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. But stuff like this happens every, well, I don't know. This is probably this happens every couple of decades, I suppose. This is probably the first time within my lifetime anyway, where people talk about wanting to go over there and actually get the truth, have the truth being told to them. One of the major ways of going about it, which is starting to become worse and worse as years have gone on, and what little research I was able to do for all this, was the Freedom of Registration Act, which is one of the best places to get a whole lot of papers sent to your house and then also get put on a list where, oh, this guy keeps asking for documents. We should watch him. With that being said, and they'll send you mounds and mounds of papers blacked out of the information that they have and give you a bunch of other information that's already well known. So there you go. You don't send people, for example, 684 pages of just blacked out documentation and not have something out there. But at the same time, though, too, it's kind of just a good deterrent. You know what I mean? It just kind of keeps people wondering. And some people believe that through this type of cloak and dagger, it allows people to move. It allows certain agencies, if you will, to move around the way they want to move around, right? While keeping your attention diverted. I don't know. It's either here or there. I think, like I said, it's just a place that they test documentation or they test weapons and so on and so forth. If there's anything really out there, it's certainly underground and no one's going to live long enough to get to it. And anybody who's ever come out and spoken up against it and said, oh, I used to work on aircrafts here, this happens here, they get their lives torn apart or they're just outed as nut jobs, which
like Bob
make
Lazar.
a good example.
I say, like, I used to be huge into this. Like, I used to have, like, the alien autopsy on VHS. Saw the documentaries about it. Then it's like, as you get older, you realize, like, no, it's what the government does. Like, oh, there's triangle aircraft being flown out there in the 60s. It's a UFO. 20 years later, it's like, oh, you mean the stealth bomber that everyone knows about now? Oh, there
Yeah.
was a jet that took off and it was blinking by and it was gone. Oh, you mean the Blackbird? It's like, yeah, technically they are UFOs because we can't identify them. But they know what they are
Right.
because they're the ones testing them. It might come out 10, 20, 30 years later, but at the time it's a UFO because I can't identify that triangle shaped thing in the sky. What the hell is that? It's got to be an alien.
Well, also though, all that stuff they told our grandparents about, oh, they were weather balloons, kind of didn't help either.
No, it's the government. They can't. If they were smart, they would have been like, it's private testing for stuff. You don't need to know about it. Instead of trying to say
Exactly.
weather balloons.
But at the same time, though, too, you think we're coming off, well, we're kind of knee deep into the Cold War, and so on and so forth, and
Yeah.
then what comes after that. So, and as if any of you guys ever want to look it up, you can. The number of spies that we had over here and over there in Russia or in the Soviet Union, I should say, was huge. You know what I mean? And they were like patched in everywhere. I just recently was looking up for the show right now. I found that Canada had their fair share of Russian spies too, or Soviet spies as well. You know what I mean? Looking up all kinds of different stuff at the time. It's very interesting to see how we were all how we were playing cloak and dagger like that, and how the Soviet Union had all their excuses for certain stuff that happened with all the astronauts that they sent out in space. I guess we'll get to that when we get to that segment, and all the failures they had, and then what we were doing over here. I guess it was just kind of the way they played it. It's either which way. It's the general thought that the general public are idiots, and whatever we feed them, they'll eat it up. they'll just kind of move on with it. It's kind of scary.
I mean, for the longest time, that everyone trusted the government. The government said JFK was shot by one person from 3 different directions. I believe it. It's not until later that people. I think it really started off with Nixon. I think it was Nixon's what broke people's trust with the government. When that happened, then people started coming out more and more of like, well, 30 years ago the government said this. What if that's not what happened?
Do you feel that in this day and age that we're less or that some of us, I should say, are less patriotic?
I don't want to say less patriotic, just more questioning of the government. Where before it'd be like, you stand up, you say your pledge of allegiance, you put your hand over your heart, you go, yeah, USA, bald eagles, American apple pie, and all that. As you get older, you're just like, wait a minute, the government used to test what on people in South Carolina to see what would happen?
Yeah.
Oh, you find out that the government did what to the people in Nigeria? You find out that the government did what to Canada? Like, they're our allies. Yeah, but they're still messing with them. Because Russia wasn't the only ones having spies in Canada.
True.
Because at one point, we probably had more Russian citizens in our country than they had in Russia. Just from them sending so many people over.
Certainly high-ranking citizens, that's for sure. Oh boy, that should be the next show too. We should talk about all the Russian defectors, and we should talk about Operation Paperclip. That'd make a good show.
Ooh, Paperclip's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Right, we should definitely do that because I'd love to get into what's that guy's name? Is it Klaus Barbie? He's one of the generals who ended up getting out and going to Argentina, and then he helped, with the revolutions and hunting people down out there. I'd love to get into that. I think it's Klaus Barbie. I'm sorry, but yeah. So that's the general situation. What's the first conspiracy you'd like to go over?
Well, obviously, the most famous incident at Area 51, the alien crash.
That was in 40. I should really have this all up here.
Just or die. I thought it was 47. That's maybe it wasn't that soon. Well, no, because I'm pretty sure it started off right after the Cold War started. Area 51 crash landing. Come on, Google. 47, mid-1947. I was right, 47.
Oh, nice. Good call. Did you know that, real quick, that they found large deposits of lead and silver in the southern part of the Groom Range in 1864?
Ooh.
Huh. I didn't know that. You know what? That might explain why they said they always found those large lead deposits out there, but people always thought maybe it was from something else.
Like them testing
Oh
weaponry.
boy, I never really thought about that. Well, anyway, I'm sorry. Okay, so like I said, we're in what, 47? You said?
Yes.
Okay, 47. So a uh, people report a giant fireball in the sky ends up hitting the ground, and I think it wasn't it like a sheriff's deputy, or maybe it was actually a couple civilians who went out there and they found like this
Farmers, because it landed on their
bendable.
farm.
Yeah, thank you. And it was like a bendable metal, and I guess they even found a body out there that they dragged into the house. How did that story go?
Well, for the bendable metal, was aluminum very popular back then? Or is it mostly like lead and tin? Because I'm pretty sure back then, lead, it's America's future. Before they knew the whole, hey, don't touch anything with lead in it.
Don't touch it, yeah.
Because for them, aluminum may have been, what the hell is this? It's metal, but it's bending and it's light. What is this? Ah, fuck it, let me look it up. I love it on Google. When was aluminum discovered? Oh, not discovered, used. Well, 1825, but not discovered. But when was aluminum mass produced in America? Not 18. Emerged in 1889. Began in the late 1800s. So maybe, But then again, cookware. Cookware isn't no flexible like that. Because obviously, you have tin foil, which you can actually make a balloon that floats out of, which is pretty hilarious. Because they did that on Mythbusters.
Oh, yeah, they did, actually.
Let's see. Here we go. Early industrial production. 1860, 1856. So it didn't become popular until 1889, but that was mostly in Europe. Aluminum age. Aluminum can was first manufactured in 1956 and employed as a container for drinks in 1958. So almost 9 years before it became aluminum cans and all that, which probably would have been your first case of dealing with a flexible metal, was Roswell. Came out 9 years before that happened. So it could have just been something aluminum or something new that they were testing that was anti-radar. So it could have just been a new metal like aluminum, but a new form of it. That was
right.
Because again, like, they had cookware in 1889, but cookware is not flexible. So it was like, that can't be aluminum. Aluminum's not flexible. I got an aluminum pan in the house. It's like, but 9 years later, you get aluminum cans, which obviously you cut those open. They're flexible. And then it's like, but there's bodies. It could have been dummies that, like when Elon Musk fired off the rocket, he put a car in there. Why? Because he needed ballast. He neted weight to it. And no one was willing to stick a satellite that cost $20 million, risking that on an experimental rocket. It's like, what do we put in here to act as ballast and counterweight to see, whatever. Let's put some dummies in there. Because this was probably before Project... what was it called when they were sending up balloons into outer space? Featured in the movie The Kingsman.
Oh,
Son of a bitch.
You got me.
Project sending balloons into space.
You're not talking about the NOAA, right?
No, not that. It was like a project where, but I don't think that was until the 70s because obviously 47, there's no satellites in outer space, so there's no reason to make this project of being able to send one person in a giant air balloon up into outer space, shoot down the satellite, and then disconnect. Which is actually something that we did, but I think that was either late 60s or early 70s. Because we were planning on like, all right, well, instead of having to send up a spaceship and shoot down a satellite from Russia or the Soviet Union, we said, strap one guy to this balloon, send him up, shoots it, jumps out, parachute. Which obviously that's actually how a lot of get those people like, I'm going to jump from this height. Well, I'm going to jump from this height. I'm going to jump from higher than anyone else. That's what they did. They strapped themselves in a booth, sent up in a balloon. It's like, all right, you've now reached the outer atmosphere. You're about to be in outer space. Jump out. That Red Bull guy did that too.
It looks great, man. But I don't not like that. Bungee jumping, I had a good time with it. Parachuting, had a good time with it too. Not sure if I'm willing to do that.
I'll say, like, because the guy even said, like, he blacked out on the drop down and all that. It's like,
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised by
yeah,
that at
you
all.
you black out and you don't wake up in time.
Oh boy.
But he
Eating
does break the
pancake.
sound barrier. The first person to break the sound barrier without using a device.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so there could have been early testing of that, or early testing of trying to get something into outer space, or something up so high that the Soviets couldn't shoot it down. Like, oh, we're using hydrogen. Hydrogen explodes. Fireball in the sky. Crash lands. Like, huh, shit, that didn't work. Because there were no, obviously, the bodies and oh, it's weather balloons. Like, well, one way to explain it as a weather balloon would be a spy balloon that goes way higher than any weather balloon ever could, but it
Right.
exploding and fire crash and all that. Because uh, hydrogen at the time it was cheaper than helium, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously in the cold air, air compresses. Hydrogen doesn't compress as much as helium does, apparently, from what I've looked up. So that would be a good explanation for why they're using hydrogen, even though they know, huh, do we really want to Hindenburg this? It'll be fine. Until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't.
Now for the farmers, I didn't hear them dragging in a body. I heard them dragging in parts, like getting pictures in the newspaper and all that with them, like the pieces of the craft that they've drug in.
Who who eventually discovered the body, or was that or that wasn't until the military ended up showing up?
Pretty sure that was until the military showed up.
Gotcha.
But
So,
then again, with the way the government is and trying to cover everything up, it's like, if you guys just said, hey, it's a, I don't know, I guess because yeah, like you said, it's the Cold War, so you don't want to be too upfront about it.
right.
So you said, hey,
Yeah,
we're
it's
testing a new way of flying across the country that's cheaper than airplanes, and it didn't work. Oops.
it's especially since I guess the son of one of the foremen on the farm that you talked about said he saw a large area of bright wreckage that made up of rubber strips, tinfoil, and a rather tough paper and sticks. Let's see here. He says he paid little attention to it, but then returned back on July 4th with his son, wife, and daughter. Well, I guess it would be something you'd bring the whole family out for to gather up the materials. Let's see here. It says right here they rolled it up. They rolled it up and stashed most of it under some brush at first, and then that's when people started reportedly started talking about they saw flying discs out there, and that was on the 7th. Or no, sorry, that was on the 4th, and then even more reports are coming on the 7th. So when did this actually happen? This happened on June 14th of 47. Wow, there's a lot of time in between all this then.
So you'd wonder, like, why did the government take so long to get out there? But maybe the government thought, yeah, that was a pretty big explosion. Nothing survived. There's no way anything that the Soviets could use against us survived that.
That's what I'm thinking too. Maybe
And
they thought that most of it burned up in the wreckage.
and from the sounds of it, it was all what, sticks and pieces of paper and metal left. So it's like, well, we're
Yeah,
not wrong. It did blow up and explode and burn.
and the individual who went out there with his family to look it up, he kind of disregarded the majority of it at first, and then after some time, then it started to kind of. When did they put the story out about the weather balloon? Then let's see. Yeah. It says right here on July 8th is when a public information officer actually made the press release stating that let's see, the 509th Operation Group was had recovered a flying disc which had crashed in the ranch next to Roswell, as described in July 9th edition of the Roswell Daily Report. So did we have two separate crashes?
One
Or we're talking
crashed,
about the same
but
crash?
they didn't know what was going on. They didn't have the cover story yet, from what I understand.
Jesus Christ, man. See, and this is the problem we had with the Kennedy shit. Everybody needs to get their story right.
Because it wasn't
You know,
until after that they came out. No, it was a weather balloon, not a disc. But we knew the
Mhm.
Nazis were working on flying saucers, and hello, Operation Paperclip, we just talked about.
Yeah, we did.
So they could have just been, all right, we're working on a UFO or circular device, see how well that goes, and before they went, all right, that's stupid, doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could have been the prequel to the helicopter. It's like, all right, we got blades, because I think with the Nazi stuff, like they had the blades underneath to push up.
Yep.
So it's like, well, what if we put the blades, take them from the bottom and put them on top.
On top.
Hey, that actually works. And with Area 51 being the place where that's where they test all this shit, it would make sense that, it didn't work. It crashed and burned in the desert. But also,
Perfect place for it to.
go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was gonna say just perfect place for something like that to crash and not worry about it.
Yeah, it's not like, oh yeah, it crashed in the middle of Times Square, New York City. It crashed in the middle of the desert where there's going to be 3 people. The foreman and his wife and his kid coming out to check it out. Especially at the time, because it wasn't until what, the mid 90s when someone sued that the government finally declared that, yeah, Area 51's real.
Yes.
Was
Which I wish I had looked into that a little bit more before we started this, because the amount of time this individual put into that was pretty remarkable. You know what I'm saying, to do so. But they say though also that that's kind of how a lot of the government information kind of comes out. It's somebody usually suing for the information to be released.
Especially at the time, because it was, I don't know if it was the first lawsuit or the second lawsuit, that there was 2 employees saying that they got hurt at work and they were suing for workman's comp or whatever. But you can't sue for being hurt at Area 51. Area 51 doesn't exist. So that's like what made them force the government to say, all right, fine, it exists. Here's your workman's comp. Stop bringing the shit up. It's like, it's crazy. Like, you can go up to the ridge, see that the base is there, see that it exists. But according to the government, no, you can't sue for workman's comp. It doesn't exist. It's like, how bad are you at covering things up when anyone can go there and be like, stand on this ridge, go, it's right there. How are you going to tell me it doesn't exist? It's right there. It's kind of like ignoring the mole in the guy's face in the Austin Powers movie. Exactly. It's like, how are you going to tell me it's not there? But honestly, since then, like, the more years go on, the farther they expand the barrier of, like, no, for you to be able to stand here, now you got to stand here. Now you got to stand all the way over here and use binoculars. But it's like, does it really matter how far you make it? We know it exists. And yes, obviously the alien conspiracies, but for the most part, it's, yeah, we got top secret shit we're testing here, like the stealth bombers and the Lockheed Blackbird and all that. Was it the SR-72, I think it's called?
Yeah. And you're right, too. They didn't actually, well, there's conflicting accounts, but it says right here that as it pertains to the Greys, which are the little gray men, not green, the little gray men that they found, that people say they saw, after the flying saucer, or the alleged flying saucer, crashed, there was a number of publications that claimed the statement that when the government came in, pretty sure the U.S. Army, that they saw them carrying away small or at least child-sized bodies with obviously large bloated heads were being carried away from the accident, if you will, or from the scene. But I don't know, they're kind of conflicted too. So maybe that didn't pop up till later, because I've seen the FBI, not the FBI, the alien dissection video that you talked about. It's really popular. You can find it all over YouTube, and there's been a bunch of variations since, and a bunch of people who've tried to debunk it, obviously. But I don't remember if they ever said it came out of the Area 51 crash. Maybe it did, because it was pretty mangled. Now I think about it, right? Because like the leg was busted up pretty good, and I think one of the operators was actually cutting into that. Damn, it's been a while since I watched it.
It's like I had it on VHS, and I was like just watching fascination. Like as you get older, it's like people that actually do autopsies go, yeah, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. You would definitely not be cutting there to start. You'd be cutting here to start. It's like, but then again, you're dealing with an alien body, not a human body. Would you treat it the same way?
Yeah, how the body's set up, and its biology is definitely not going to be the way that you would expect. So maybe they'd be a little bit more free flowing with it.
Be like, all right, normally we would cut here, but we're more interested in this, so it's not like we're doing this for law enforcement. It's not like we're gonna figure out what killed this guy. It's like, no, they died in our air crash. We want to know what the fuck's in here, so cut here instead, where we normally cut.
I want to know what's in it. Oh boy, interesting stuff.
God, but like I said, it used to be big, and as the days you get older, and you realize, like, no, it's just the government, being secretive.
But on the other end of the spectrum, though, the Nazi UFOs is a pretty interesting little an interesting little field in itself too, given what they were trying to discover for their wonder weapons and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
Um,
like the early prototypes that would later probably become helicopters, where they started the blades underneath and then moved them up top, and doing everything with
mhm.
rocketry. It's like, all right, well, what can we do with rockets? Well, I can try this. Well, what if we do it like this? Also, at the time, it's like, I've never seen anything like that before. It's unidentified, and it's flying. Therefore, it's a UFO. But for them, it's
And
like,
what was it?
go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Good.
And it's like, all right, so you get all this new stuff, especially back in the 40s and 50s, where we're getting all the Nazi scientists. We're just starting off with rocketry. It's like, all right, well, what do we do? What do we try? Do we try this? Do we try a balloon that can go high enough that the Soviets can't shoot it down? Do we try silver disc with the blades underneath? Just like the Nazis tried to see if they could perfect it. And obviously they didn't until they moved it to the top and called it a helicopter.
And what was the name of like I don't know if it was the name of an actual itself, or if it was the name of the just the group of the group of I guess aerial technology that they were working on at the time. I can't remember exactly how to describe that. But what they call the Germans were calling them what, like Foo Fighters or whatnot? Was it something along those lines?
Foo Fighters
Was trying
Germany,
to
or was that Japan?
uh
Foo
now I'm gonna have to
Fighters.
look. Let's see here.
Not the band.
No, not the band.
Again, it's from the
Let's see.
UFO and various aerial phenomena that were reported by Allied aircraft during World War II, which were known collectively as Foo Fighters. I'm gonna say it was Germany or Japan, but yeah, so anything that was unidentified by Allied aircraft pilots in World War II were known as Foo Fighters.
Okay. Well, and okay, where I'm looking at right now, it says it's contributed to. Well, it's contributed over. It's because they said they saw it over the skies of Europe and in the Pacific. So it could have been anybody. Truthfully, it could have been anybody part of the Axis.
Because obviously the Japanese were probably working on their own stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But then, but with the Japanese though, like they're still going to battle with like horses and swords and all that. Like, were they actually manufacturing their own weapons, or did they buy all their own weapons from someone else?
I can't remember if it was like a little bit of both. To be honest, there's a lot of people on. There was I think World War II for sure was one of those situations where not everybody was up to speed the way they needed to be under reasonable circumstances. Hence the reason why the casualties are so high.
Well, you get a
Especially
lot
since
of.
a lot.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Especially you got a lot of guys on the ground that, yeah, I didn't graduate high school. I can't read. Oh, there's something flying overhead. I have no idea what the fuck it is. You get 2 million people in Europe doing that. Oh yeah, there's all these Foo Fighters going around. Well, people actually know stuff's like, no, that's just the new Tomcat 112 that we came out with that has bigger guns on it. For them, it's like, that's not what an airplane looks like. An airplane has spy wings on it. Because maybe that's the only things they ever saw at a air show.
Exactly. Wow. Like I said, you could think research like that, at least some of it anyway, would come out of Area 51 for sure.
People hear, oh yeah, you hear loud noises from there at night. It's like, all right, either A,
Mm-hmm.
sonic boom, or railguns. We've just now started implementing railguns in the U.S. Navy because those about the only things big enough and strong enough to carry those things and fire them. How many decades did we work on those? How many decades did we test those in a place like Area 51 with a huge expanse of land where there's nothing to actually kill or anything? So, all right, let's try this. Let's try it at this much power. And we just wrecked the thing. All right, let's turn the power down a little bit. But people around the area, especially since there's nothing there to block the sound wave, they keep hearing all
Mm-hmm.
this loud booms. Like, what the fuck was that? Or they'll look up like, I don't see any jets in the sky breaking the sound barrier. It must be invisible. The government's working on invisible airplanes.
And yet again, you don't want the public to know about that. You don't want that to get out.
Yeah, I don't.
So letting people think it's something extraterrestrial kind of works to your favor. Well, to some point.
Yeah, because you get them going, oh, it's UFO. It's like, it's not a UFO, it's this. But since you think it's UFOs and not this, this is not going to come out to the public. This is not going to come out to the Soviets.
Exactly. because even in our current in our current atmosphere, if you will, there's still a lot of distrust, even amongst our own allies. You know what I'm saying? It's the whole concept of keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. In truth, just keep everybody close. Just keep everybody close because we're all spying on each other, obviously.
So keep them close enough you can shake their hand, but also keep them close enough you can stab them when you need to.
Sadly, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the way we are. I mean, I think politically that's kind of how it was always meant to be. You know what I mean? Especially coming out of like the the situation with like the Cuban Missile Crisis, for example, like where we damn near almost blew ourselves up over nothing. While Castro just sitting out there in Cuba chilling. Like you do realize that he might have gone up with that. So yeah, maybe it's just a little bit better if we, instead of us bringing out the big guns, we just keep steadier tabs on each other, and maybe that'll work out a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? Because who knows what kind of backdoor deals happen? Hey, we heard that you have this. We have pictures that you have this, and we have let's say 3 or 4 of your citizens that will go ahead and contribute to that. So how about you go ahead and share some of the love, and we make certain things go away with certain people who are problems for you too. You kind of, and you know what I'm saying? You just kind of, everything can be worked out in a deal, I suppose.
For the most part.
I mean, yeah, like, what I'm saying? It's better than the bloodshed, obviously.
I'll say this, especially during the Cold War. In fact, they made a movie about it with I think Tom Hanks. About, you got one of our spies, we got one of your spies, we're going to trade them here. It's like, but how many of those were public and how many of those were not public? How many times did we trade someone or they trade someone that we'll never know unless we sue and get a bunch of blacked out documents?
Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of which, wasn't Matt Damon in a movie like that?
Wasn't that Behind Enemy Lines or something? Behind the Red Line?
I'm not sure. Like he was, I know he went to his character, I should say, went to like a prestigious Ivy League school, and then he got like recruited to like the CIA or something. And then he had a Russian contact for a while. Oh man, it's been a while since I've seen the movie. And I guess his Russian contact, they thought he was a defector, so they were feeding. So he was feeding Matt Damon in the CIA information. Come to find out, the guy was like a triple agent or some shit.
Bridge of Spies.
And I mean, that was just.
That's the Tom Hanks one, isn't it? Yeah, it's the Tom Hanks one. Damn it. Was Matt Damon in this one? He was not.
Okay, so yeah, it's probably a different movie. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. I don't mean the fiction and nonfiction. It's just something to refer to.
Well, a lot of the fiction is based off of nonfiction. Just got to change stuff here and there so it doesn't get hit with that.
Exactly.
I mean, it's one way that they tell the truth without telling the truth. Exactly. Like, oh, that's top secret. You can't say anything about it. Fine. We'll make a totally fictional movie. We'll just change names and, well, instead of it taking place in Ukraine, it took place in Bosnia. Same story, though. Exactly everything that happened, just change a couple things so you can make a movie about it. And knowing, like, yeah, that actually happened, but we technically not allowed to talk about it.
Kind of like that situation with that's going on in Hollywood with what's that dude's name who's the like the creator of Family Guy?
Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane? Yeah, like how he makes all those jokes about certain shit that goes on in Hollywood, but he knows he can't come out, outright and say it. So he kind of slips it into his show in a very clever and comedic type of way to keep himself from getting sued. Because isn't Seth MacFarlane like 5 for 5 or 10 for 10 now when it comes to, large Hollywood controversies, like the whole thing with Kevin Spacey, for example? I remember Medicare brought that up.
I don't know how well he's good on it, but it's not like The Simpsons where just happens to say it, then however many months or years later, oh hey, it finally came out. It's like, this is not predicting the future, it's that he hears or knows stuff, or he knows people who hear and know stuff, then he puts it in the show as a joke, then however many years later, it's like, oh, hey, that actually happened. Like, yeah, that's what the joke was based off of. The joke didn't come from out of nowhere. Based off of that, I just gotta say, hey, this is based off a true thing at the time.
Exactly.
God, actually, like you mentioned, the Area 51 and suing for documents being blacked out reminds me of when someone sued they get the information, like they sent in hair that they thought was from Bigfoot, never got a response, and then finally someone like sued the FBI, like, hey, finally release this shit. It's like, it was deer hair. It's like, mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Was it actually deer hair, and the person just couldn't identify it, even though they're a hunter, and like that's why they sent it in because they couldn't identify it?
Right.
Or was it them going, oh shit, we can't identify it. Tell them it's deer hair anyways.
If that was the case, then why they have to be sued for them to let that out? You should have just. They could. I would have sent it back right away. I was like, all right, send them a letter saying it's deer hair. End of story.
Or caribou hair, like something they wouldn't normally see. Because like,
Yeah, like something like that.
what was it, like the one girl almost got in trouble because she shot an elk. It's like there's no elk in this area. The nearest elk's like 2,000 miles away. And then it's like, oh, it turns out some of them are actually migrating this way. It's like, so you guys said, oh, it was a random elk that migrated 2,000 miles away from where they're normally at. It's like, oh, what happened to that little girl almost got in trouble.
That sounds unusual as shit.
Like her and her dad are out deer hunting. Oh, there's a deer. Bam! Oh shit, it's an elk. It's not legal to shoot those here.
Huh. I mean, I suppose it's possible, but 2,000 miles? That's a... By itself?
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
they
Like-
finally found a small herd of them.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because that would have sucked if she did get any trouble for that.
Oh, thankfully she didn't, because obviously it's like there's no elk in this area. How the hell were we supposed to know it was an elk? We saw a deer. We shot a deer.
Were they ever able to explain why they migrated that far off the beaten path?
Either food or competition.
Interesting.
So it could have been like two males were fighting. The one male got kicked out. Other males joined. Females went, ooh, there's a bunch of males. Let's follow them. As the males competed with each other and they just spread themselves out farther. Since they discovered them, now they've been looking for them. And I think it was either like Alabama, Arkansas, like someplace where you do not think of elk being in that area. It's like, yeah,
Right.
they're not normally in this area, but like you can find, like, we've been finding smaller herds here and there. So we actually trace them back to the main area that they came from. It's like,
Interesting.
huh.
So I guess with the weather changes and whatnot, it's causing it. Well, it could be causing it.
Or around here you got deer, and then it's like, well, deer used to be everywhere. Now they're only in certain areas. Like, where were they at? Parks, where you're not allowed to hunt them.
Hmm.
But
Makes
then
sense.
they eat themselves to starvation. So then it's like, all right, well, if you pay a special thing, we'll close the park down for a couple of days. You come in and you kill as many deer as you want.
Oh, they'll literally let you get as many as you can?
My uncle did the same thing with geese at a golf course. Because it was out of season, but if the geese are damaging public property, you can actually get a special thing that says, all right, well, they're destroying it, like with farmers and crops. If you heard a deer come in and start eating all your crops, you're legally allowed to shoot them.
Right.
This was with the geese. My uncle and his friends got hired, like, kill as many as you can until they stop coming here.
Oh boy. So, have geese for like half the year? That's not too bad.
He's like, yeah, we ate geese for like 6 months till everyone in the family was like, I'm tired of geese. Can we eat something
I'm tired
else?
of geese. Oh.
He's been on the news for hunting coyotes and all that too.
Right, because the population of them are starting to explode too in certain places.
And it's like, I've seen a couple mountain lions in the area, but it's like, I'm not sure the legality of that.
Right.
It's like, I'd like to be the first person to shoot a mountain lion around here.
Yeah, but you don't want to wait until they get too close, and then you're like, yeah, maybe I should take you out now. So, but the general point, ladies and gentlemen, is that when you look at the phenomena of Area 51, Roswell, and then just UFO conspiracies in general, they're all over the place. I mean, obviously, it's woven into, you know what I'm saying? It's woven into our kind of like what's the word I'm looking for?
Woven into the fabric of America, but at this point.
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying, like, into the general populace, it's there in a bunch of different ways, and it's fed to you throughout, no matter what the medium that you get all of your entertainment from and or information. And the question is what's truthful and what's not. When you think of, as James pointed out, with different types of energy weapons, sound weapons, the Aurora Project is another example that people bring out, the development of weather control and or how we're having shifts in weather and so on and so forth. These are things that people are quick to contribute to Area 51 and a lot of the things that happen. What's the name of that conference where supposedly all the influential world leaders go to discuss
the Bohemian
how they're
thing?
gonna... I'm sorry?
I think it's Bohemian something.
Oh, that's Bohemian Grove. That's California. That's one of the big social groups. But I'm thinking of
I think
is it Not Bloomsburg?
No.
You know what I'm talking about, though. I know you know what I know you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
mega powerful people meeting. That's the only way I can describe it. Bilderberg group.
Thank you, Bilderberg. Like people have said that those type. Well, a meeting similar to that is held in Area 51. All these different things. Now, like I said, none of it can really be corroborated in any type of way, shape, or form. It's an interesting read. You'll find some compelling stuff on it if you're willing to deep dive into it. uh, I think my general thoughts kind of focus the same way James did. You know what I'm saying? When you're a little bit younger, you're like, oh, wow, this is pretty interesting. You know what I mean? Especially in comics. Like if you're a comic head like me, you used to see a lot of that early on. And then as you get slightly older and whatnot, you're like, you can kind of explain a lot of that away. Not everything, obviously, but you can explain most of it away, at least with a decent amount of reasoning. It's still interesting, though, to be perfectly honest with you. And there's actually some decent books out there if you ever feel like getting your hands on it that are pretty good reads, and especially some of the individuals who alleged to actually worked for the U.S. government for Area 51, working on different types of propulsion or whatnot. They said a lot of the as we talked about earlier, some of the German Foo Fighters and just German technology that ended up being confiscated, if you will, from Area 50 from Germany, Nazi Germany. We ended up bringing to Area 51 one place of many places to actually try to deconstruct it to see what made it work and made it tick, and then do it again. Or reverse engineer is the word I'm looking for, to try to figure out how it ticked and how to put it back together and to make them better. And a lot of it we've incorporated. If you look at how technology has jumped over the span of 60, 70 years, I mean, obviously something happened. Is it alien technology? I couldn't tell you, but it's obviously something. One more point, and then I'll pass it over to James. Didn't they say that the internet wasn't actually made for the general population? It was like something that the CIA was using to just kind of pass information amongst themselves and to other countries. Is that what I can't remember if that's what the internet's original purpose was.
Well, the internet was originally created by the government and by the military, like the Pentagon and all that. And Al Gore's "I invented the internet." He's never said that. He helped fund the invention of the internet because it was being done in his home state, and he's like, "Oh, well, we'll throw an extra $11 million at that." And a few years later, holy shit, the internet's actually a big deal. Which maybe wouldn't have come around as quickly or at all if he didn't go, let's dump an extra $11 million into this project the military's got going on about interwebs and tubes over digital. I'm not sure what that means, but all right, let's go fund it. It's $11 million. We'll spend more than on toilet seats.
The idea came from somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's
but like I said,
go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Like I said, it's interesting stuff, and like I said, a lot of black bag stuff gets tied into this too. If you ever want to look some of it up, and I didn't want to go into any great detail because I could talk your ears off forever on some of that. But make of it what you will.
I was like you said, when you're younger, it's like so fascinating, so easy to believe, and then as you get older and you realize how the government actually works. Like we already had people, talk about it. It's like, so how long could they go without talking about aliens? Or in the case of Donald Trump, you really think he's not going to come out there? We got the best aliens. Our aliens are bigger and better than your aliens. Our aliens are huge. But
then you get into you get into the idea of like how much does even the president of the United States know? It's not like you get sworn in and like, okay, here's the book right here about every alien sighting and every alien we've talked to since, leading back to the 40s, so on and so forth.
The movie Independence Day covered that, or it was like, what? Plausible deniability. We couldn't tell you. So that way, if you were asked about it, you could say, no, I don't know anything about it, truthfully.
Which makes sense. But at the same time, like, if I became U.S. president and they were like, hey, yeah, we're in contact with, like, extraterrestrials and shit, and, yeah, Hitler's not dead. We actually have him cryogenically frozen. I don't really want to know about the alien stuff just so I can make sure I can deny that. We got Hitler's body where? I'd like to see it.
I want to poke it with a stick.
You know what I'm saying? Do we have Ava Brown too? I'd like to see that also. I want to poke it with a stick.
Stick.
How were they really killed? Like, I want all that. Like, I want to know. Like, did Lincoln really get assassinated the way they said he did? Like, if you're president, you have questions.
Questions that might actually finally be answered.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you'll never be able to answer it unless you put everything in code in your memoirs after you long retire.
Yeah, it's like I'm on my deathbed. Publish.
what's that guy named? Like Ethan Hunt and shit. Go ahead and just lay everything out when you're dead.
Oh, like you said before, what the technology explosion was it alien
Hmm.
technology we were reverse engineering, or was it just all right? Well, how much money do we have? This, spend it. It's amazing how quickly you can invent stuff or discover stuff when you spend the money on it. But it's
Right.
it's really weird that like all right for 10,000 years, electricity is ooh scary, lightning, hide. Then you go right, wait, we finally got a light bulb. Look at this, we have a light bulb. Less than 100 years later, yeah, we got electric this, electric that, we got internet, we got computers. Like it's an amazing jump from we finally harnessed lightning into a piece of glass called a light bulb to what we got now. Was it really
Yeah.
just pure luck and dumping a shit ton of money into it? Because how do we have all these incredibly smart, genius people, and none of them discovered any of this until 10 minutes ago, time wise in history?
Which leads into another interesting argument where how is it that technology has come this far to where we can do so much now, right? Like the technology gets smaller and smaller and smaller, the battery life gets better and better and better. You can do more with it. But yet, why have we had such a hard time curing certain diseases and this, that, and the third? Which, to be perfectly honest with you, I can't explain that away. No one can, except for the fact that all of, diseases are like everything else or anything else. It evolves over time. I mean, I was just reading it the other day where they're saying that cancer is starting to become more and more and more resistant. You know what I mean? Where now people are kind of starting to like researchers, I should say, are starting to bang their heads up against the wall, being like, yo, we're not sure what we can do next. You know what I mean? It's starting, it's not there yet, obviously, but it's starting to get to that point. The AIDS virus. Like how many different strands of that did they discover? And they keep discovering. It's a scary situation.
Maybe the aliens just didn't have that kind of technology on their ship then, right?
Maybe not, but also another interesting theory is that when the first aliens crashed here, a lot of the diseases and everything that they had ended up obviously getting thrown into the air or into the water or whatever the case may be, and then it ended up migrating to us. No diseases in particular, so I don't have anything to name. I just thought it was an interesting theory when I read it.
So we're the
So
Indians to their Columbus.
yeah, pretty much.
God. Like, man, can you imagine you run for president, you become president, they tell you all this, like, holy shit, I gotta get this quiet. Or it's not just me, it's my entire family that ends up dead. And
Well,
they'll probably be dead by my hands, according to the government, because I snapped and killed them. It totally wasn't them killing them and then blaming it on me.
which is another interesting fact because when you look at each president who goes in, right? And obviously, I'm not trying to throw a conspiracy theory at you. It's just when you see each and every U.S. president who goes into office and then they come out, no matter if it's the 4-year term or the 8 years, they look horrible when they come out.
Oh, yeah, they age
Like
10 years for every year they're in office.
yeah, like the stress level of those individuals, and not just the day to day bullshit of being the leader of the free world, right? But then, as we're talking about right now, the small shit that not small to them it's probably small, but to us it's a big thing. The small stuff that you've been privy to, and you're like, yeah, this is what happened. You never get to speak about it, and you have that in the back of your head, like, holy shit, uh, we're sitting on technology that will end up destroying all of us one day. We actually are. We actually have contact with beings that are smarter than us, or obviously intellectually superior to us, and I can never speak on that. We're, I've got pictures of Putin's wife, with the president of some other country, and Putin's okay with it because he's blackmailing that guy. Crazy shit like that. Like, how does a man live with that? Who wants that power when you think about it? Not just the power, but who wants to know that information or be privy to that?
Or the
That's
stress
scary.
of going, we have the cure for that and this and this. Yeah, we got the cure for it, but if we do that, people will live so much longer. How do you
Yeah,
feed all those people? How do you clothe all those people? How do you get all those people jobs? How do you fund
jobs.
Social Security for all those people that now, instead of dying at 80, to die at 180? And it's like, so yeah, we got to keep
Mm-hmm.
this quiet. It's like, my best friend died from that 6 years ago, and he could have lived. but they won't let us out. I'm the president. I could come out and say, "Hey, we got this. Stop killing people." But if I do that, they're going to kill me, and it's not going to help anyone else. Like my friend that died,
Nope.
or this person who's just got sick, or someone who voted for me wrote me a letter like, "Oh, my poor little Susie got this, and oh, it's just so sad. We can't afford the bills. Could you please push for Medicare for all?" It's like, bitch, we don't need Medicare for all. We got the cure right there. But the logistics of people living longer, people living
Mm-hmm.
healthier. I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just out of college. I can't get that job. Why? Because their youngest employee is 62. Their oldest is 120. They just don't die anymore because they don't get old anymore. Because you do not die from old age. No one has ever died from old age. They've died from heart failure. They've died from kidney disease. They've died from something on the outside. So when you get something that cures all that, it's like, well, fuck, people don't die. There's no jobs left because why the fuck would I retire? I can't retire. I'm going to live for another 60 years. You're 120 years old. Yeah, I'm going to live for another 60 fucking years. I need money.
Exactly.
Could you,
It's not like God has a retirement plan for everybody,
could you imagine?
like a biblical plan.
It's like, I'm president. It's like, I want my father to live forever. I could cure him with this and this and this, but I can't give him anything because it's not allowed to be known about. Someone just had to sit here and watch my father wither away and die.
Which actually LSB or Lightside Bill actually mentioned this on streams where when they were talking about I think they were talking about the medical industry, or somebody in his comment section had talked about it or whatnot, and he said that yeah, you're gonna, medication is I'm paraphrasing, I don't have the exact details, a little while ago, but he was basically like, yes, medicine is expensive, but the proceeds from that medication goes back to the research and then continues to kind of push the industry along. Now, back to what you're saying. If the money's not in the cure, the money's in the medicine. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, and it's brutal. Don't get me wrong, and what, because we've all lost a family member or a friend or whatever the case may be to something. But that's where the money's at. It's actually in the treatment, not necessarily in the cure. And even if it's not in that particular field, it's in something else. It's in another field with another type of disease or whatever the case may be. Yet again, but that goes back to my major point, is that when you look at different types of viruses and diseases, and they're constantly evolving, and with more and more of the vaccines or actual
Antibiotics being ineffective now.
yeah, antibiotics becoming less and less effective, it's starting to be a problem. And then you get into the whole vaccination thing. Do you get your children vaccinated or you don't? Which, that's a whole other discussion in itself, because kids are resilient. Not necessarily, like what they say the very young and susceptible, whereas everybody else who's lived a little while, you have a better chance. You start getting into those risks, and are you willing to put, if you're not going to vaccinate your child, right? Are you willing to put someone else's child at jeopardy because you don't feel confident in doing it for your own kids? It just becomes a whole situation in itself. And then, like you said, with the whole concept of living longer. First off, do I really want to live to 120 years old? Do I really want to live past, I don't know. I don't know if I really want to go past 60, to be honest. But do I really want to live, you know what I'm saying, to 100 years old and shit? No, I don't want to live that long. You know what I mean? Like, you live for a certain amount of time, and then, you go ahead and you just pass on. I'm not going to commit suicide or nothing. It's just I don't want to live an extraordinary amount of time. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody always says, oh, there's not enough time to do this, not enough time to do that. Then do it while you can. Don't live with the idea of regret. You know what I mean? Do what you can while you can. Waiting until you get older, or wait until you have the money, or wait until it's the best time or the right time, right place, you'll be waiting forever like that. You'll be waiting forever like that. I've worked with older dudes who are like that. You know what I mean? These guys are well into their 60s and whatnot. Real smart guys. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to retire soon. We're going to go and buy this house in Tahiti and shit, this, that, and the third. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I've been in this office for like 4 years and I've heard you say that, bro. Like, how much money do you really need? You know what I mean? Like, how comfortable are you really trying to set yourself up for? If you look at some of these guys, like, they have 4 kids. They're all in college. All their education's paid. They all have houses waiting for them when they get out. You and your wife have worked for 40 plus years. You guys have a nice nest egg set to the side. You guys are in a pretty good position, I would say. And you keep holding off, and it's like, keep doing that. It may not be there when you're ready. You may not be there when the situation is actually ready for you. So something to think about.
I'll say my youngest employee, is like 25. My oldest is 84. He worked as a
Wow.
teacher for 40 years, retired for 5
Uh-huh.
years, got bored. It's like, yeah, I'll get a part-time job. So he works 4 hours a day, 3 days a week, just to get himself out of the
Huh.
house, get his mind keep working and all that. Yeah, he just turned 84 on September 2nd.
Mm.
And people are like, wait a minute, you're his boss? Well, technically. I mean, yeah, I still got like 8 people above me, but I'm above him, and it's just weird. Like, this guy's 84 years old. But no, he retired, went on the vacations, did the
Right.
grandkids, the cruises. Yeah, then he got bored. And there's a lot of people where I work at that they worked somewhere else for 40 years, got tired, retired, got bored, so they get part-time jobs, working in the office or doing cleaning or working the for like, hey, I still got my license to work forklifts. All right, well, work the forklift here. But then
Yeah.
that leads to the part where, like I said earlier, where people had to be 180. College kids got out of college, there's no jobs for them. Like, oh, this
Exactly.
position would have been taken by some kid in college. Like, hey, I need a part-time job to help pay for booze. I mean, books. All right, so you work part-time here. No, 6 hour shifts, 4 days a week. All right. Well, all that 6 hour shift, 4 days a week is taken up by someone who's 70 because they worked, retired, got bored, got a part-time job. So yeah, the issue with living forever or living a lot longer would be one reason to keep all that stuff secret. It's like, yeah, it'd be nice to save some people, but do we want to save everyone?
Right.
Do we want a 90 plus year old Hitler? Do we want a 120-year-old Fidel Castro? Do we need a 180-year-old Pol Pot?
And actually, you bring up an even better point. If you could live longer, right? If you could actually live longer naturally, if you have that type of technology, you may have the technology to bring people back. Would you want to bring back an Adolf Hitler or a Pol Pot or a Chairman Mao? Not to because you want them to, we're giving them a redemption arc or anything, but do you really want to bring these people back and actually strap them in and be like, hey, what were you actually thinking at that time? Do you really? I mean, it's interesting.
That would
It'd
be
be interesting to do.
good.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to be able to probe the mind of some of these individuals and get an idea of like what were you thinking, what brought you to this, and so on and so forth. Because we're only talking about all this on the after effect or the aftermath, aftermath. I'll go with that. With the aftermath of it all, there's very few of them that you actually could sit down and actually talk to and be like, hey, this is how it played out for you, and we brought you back like 80 plus years later for some of these guys. 40, 50 plus years for some of these guys. Would you like to tell us what were you really thinking at that after they get over the initial shock of being brought back? What was it that you were thinking? What was your actual end goal? I would assume, and this is just me being honest, ladies and gentlemen, with some of these people, they didn't have one. It was all kind of in the moment, and they kind of just went with it. That's why most movements like that fail, because no one initially had a plan. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has the idea, but no one actually has a plan.
Or they have the
I'd
idea, but they
certainly
don't
like
have the end goal.
exactly. And so, like, for me, if I could bring somebody back, oh boy, if I could bring somebody back, I probably want to talk to Stalin first. To be honest, I want to talk to Stalin because I want to just be like, hey, when Russia was starting to really fall apart, and you were at your private quarters, did you really think when those agents and officials came to your house, did you really think they were actually going to kill you? Because he had actually told a confidant that that's what the case was. He was ready for these people to walk in and kill him because that's how he was running his regime at the time. So one of my questions was, did you really think they were going to kill you? And if so, did you ever think about maybe you should off yourself before they do it? But then the Soviets were pretty proud people, so suicide might not have been the best option. But that's the first person I'd like to talk to. It's definitely Joseph Stalin, because I'd like to get an idea of just, what were you going for? Like, you're cutting off all these people, you're trying to get all this power, but what do you actually do with it? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, in the end, like, what are you really going to do with it? And then it's that same type of power and running and everything like that as a tyrant is what essentially got you killed. Well, It depends if you believe he actually got poisoned or if you believe that he had a stroke and he died. Either which way, it may have been avoided if you didn't sit there and kill all the good doctors or at least run them out. You know what I mean? I have those are the type of questions I'd like to ask. Like, what was your end goal going to be? Hitler's another one, to be honest. I think I want to talk to Himmler actually a little bit more than Hitler, just because I want to be like, hey, why didn't you ever think of just assassinating Hitler?
And what do you think about taking out the nut job and taking over with someone who was smarter, or at least smart enough not to attack Russia?
I'm who knows? Like, you know what I'm saying? You could go so many different ways with that argument.
I'd be more along the lines of like Marilyn Monroe or other people who died in a mysterious fortune. Like, okay, who did you die because you overdosed, or was there some guys from the Black Secret Service, CIA stuff they're enforcing you to drink that?
Marilyn Monroe. They said she died of barbiturates.
Yeah, right? From an overdose.
Like overdose. And her little black book came up missing too. Yeah.
Exactly.
And she had talked to Robert Kennedy last. Yeah, I think they said.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be anxious to hear what she had to say. To be honest,
I'd be like, all right, with the Black Dahlia murder, it's like, all right, we got the 3 best sketch artists in the world. We're going to bring you back. You're going to describe to them what the person who murdered you looked like. And then we'll finally get the face of the Black Dahlia killer.
That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be my thing. Be like, all right, bring back murder victims. Like, all right, who killed you? My husband. Arrest the fucker. But then that'd probably put a lot of police out of business. Like, well, we don't need police anymore. We just need a guy that... No, all right, stick him with this. Who killed you? This guy. All right, put him back down.
I don't know if you would... If that would... I wouldn't say that would take... I'm sorry. I know we're sidetracking a little bit. This is actually a pretty good conversation. I don't think that would actually... that would put the police out of business. It would probably eliminate the need for detectives, for sure. It might hurt forensics to a degree, maybe, but I don't think it would get rid of the police. I think it.
Well, it'd get rid of like the murder department and all that.
Right, homicide and so on.
Yeah.
I have one issue now that I'm thinking about it. If you bring somebody back like that, yeah, the trauma that the kind of the initial shock of, for example, being murdered, and now you're being brought back and you have all this flush of memory coming through and all these emotions, and then whatever else went into bringing you back from death. Is it possible that could skew your perception of possibly who your killer was, given the time of your death?
Or do you go, all right, well, we brought you back, well, now we got to kill you again? Or is it something that's like, all right, well, this last 30 minutes, so you got to give as much detail as possible in 30 minutes before the effect wears off and you go back under? Because they're like, hey, can you bring all these people back? Like, hey, you were murdered, we brought you back. Well, then they weren't murdered, were they? Because they're back now. Well, shit. Do you just put them back down, or is it something that wears off?
That's a whole nother argument in itself, actually. What I was kind of meaning is it possible that their memory, though, of the killer could possibly be distorted because of the process of bringing them back? Do you think that could have been a thing?
Well, probably when they work on it, doing testing, beta tests, like, all right, well, the person thought a dinosaur ate their face, but they probably meant it was a dog. We think it was a dog that killed them, but we don't know if, like, someone fed their face to a dog. Like, Ed's like, oh, I stabbed him in the face. Oh, get the dog to chew on the face, make it look like the dog did it. Or was it actually a dog that did it? You bring it back, a dinosaur! It was a fucking velociraptor ate my face. Like, wow. Okay, we're going to put you back down until we figure out how to get this working right.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And would you be able to tell parents, like, oh, I know your 3-year-old just died from a terrible car accident, but you're not allowed to bring them back? Like, how many of them would be like, I will fucking take this place hostage and kill as many people as possible to bring my 3-year-old back once that technology becomes around?
See, but then now we get into like an ethical type of thing, yeah? Well, I mean, I guess theoretically we've already crossed that line with trying to bring the dead back. But yeah, what do you do when a parent has lost a child like that? Like, holy shit, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Or someone breaks into the house, the husband fights off the burglar, gets stabbed, he dies. You think the wife's not going to want to bring him back? Like, I don't want to leave my kids fatherless. I need to bring them back.
I don't See, now we starting to get into murky waters with stuff like that.
By the way, I'm going to be changing this from Area 51 and moon landing to Area 51, advanced technology, and moon landing. Or hidden technology. Yeah, we'll do hidden technology.
Oh, yeah, that starts getting into murky waters with that, just from an ethical standpoint.
So we'll go with it brings them back, but only brings them back for 30 minutes to an hour, then they fall back under. And you can only do it once.
Yeah, I think that maybe for can you tell us who killed you, and you can say goodbye to your loved ones.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
If you want to, yeah, if you want to have that opportunity.
Or in the case of the wife and the husband, bring them back so she can be like, "I love you, honey. You sacrificed your life for me and the kids. I'll never find another man better than you. I love you so much." So that way, not only that she gets to say goodbye to her loved one, but that way he knows. So the last words aren't, "Oh God, please don't kill us." It's, I love you, honey. You are such an amazing man.
Exactly.
God, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, that works. I can live with that.
Then, of course, you got to worry about costs. Like, all right, it costs $10,000. Well, how many of these people are going to be like, well, sorry, kids, you don't get to eat for the next 6 years because mommy's saving up money. So she can do this. But then a couple years later, they go through the grief process and it's like, all right, maybe I should let the kids eat now. I don't need to do that again. Obviously, the rich people would be like, you died, fuck it, bring him back. I just want to call me an idiot one last time.
Wow. Spiteful. Any that was a good point of conversation though. I gotta say, I don't think I've ever given it that much thought, but I'm kind of glad I did though. Anything else as it pertains to Area 51 that you want to touch on before we move over to the moon landing?
Yes, how much more technology is going to come out of there? What next plane are we going to discover was built 20 years ago, but we didn't find out until today or tomorrow? What are they going to go from the ones that go into the actual upper atmosphere, like go into outer space and come back down so they can't be spotted, or go out and shoot out satellites that they don't want in the air? That's my thinking. That's the next step for plane technology that might come out of there is going to be stuff that can actually go into outer space and come back down. Maybe without a huge payload, because I'm like, all right, well, those will save us millions of dollars because we don't need to send rockets anymore. Like, no, we can carry a couple missiles, maybe some bullets, but that's going to be about it.
Right. Crazy stuff. Actually, one more thing before we start. What is the, didn't they say that there's a second Area 51 site?
Well, I think it's Andrew Air Base or Patterson Air Base in Ohio. It's pretty known for alien stuff and technology. There's a lot. There's maybe not Area 51 itself in the country, but there's a lot of bases that. No, well, this one does specifically this. This one studies specifically going underwater. Like, yeah, we want to be able to send a submarine so deep into the water and camouflage it that their subs will never pick it up. And it's like, all right, well, we got these things here that do this for land stuff, like robots. You're gonna tell me there's not an Area 51 built for robots, making robot soldiers that we can, like, all right, we're gonna invade them. How many people do we want to lose? None. Send in the robots. There's no way you're gonna tell me that they're not working on that. That whatever we see coming out of Caltech and MIT and Elon Musk, that's stuff that they've gotten put down 20 years ago.
True. Very true.
So I see Area 51 for air stuff. Others, again, for robots or for underwater. They probably got ones that's very specifically for certain things. That's like, oh, we need to fly our scientists to this base because that's their specialty.
Yeah, make a good point. Yeah, I thought they had a sister location too. It was because Area 51 is in let's see here.
The Roswell, Rancho, New Mexico area near Groom Lake.
Yeah, and then I thought the sister location was, I don't remember if they said it was in if it was actually in Arizona somewhere.
Area 51 sister site. And nothing popped up.
All right, I'll look it up further, and I'll leave it in the comment section if I find it. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
All
right. So, what do you want to hit next, though?
Moon landing.
That was a good talk, though. Moon landing. All right. So,
get the picture of the guy.
how you want to start the ball off?
For me, I've never believed that it was conspiracy for several reasons. Number one,
Uh-huh.
being the Soviets. There's no way the Soviets are going to be like, oh yeah, they totally lied about landing on the moon before us. We're just going to let it slide. There's not a chance in hell of that. Two, they put the things on the moon where, like, if you get a powerful laser, you can shine it at the moon and it'll reflect it back. This was actually
Mhm.
covered in, what's that show? Big Bang Theory, that they actually covered this. Three, people go, oh, the flag's waving. That's because there's wires in it. Because they knew there's no atmosphere, there's no air, so they had to put the wires in there. So while you're trying to screw
Mhm.
into the ground, it made it look like it was waving. How come there's no stars in the pictures? Because it's day out. Look outside right now. How many stars do you see? One, the sun. So like that, the people that or the oh this prop says M on it. It's like it could say M, but it looks more like it was a mark or something on the actual picture. What they've
Right.
explained as like I think like a hair got in the film or something like that.
Who's that? Who's that director that they said that
Stanley Kubrick.
that helped? Who?
Stanley Kubrick
Yeah, the one who did The Shining. Yeah.
and Space Odyssey, whatever.
Yeah. They said that he was. They said that in sorry, in The Shining, he left like little clues throughout the movie that hey, he actually helped fake the landing or whatever. I always thought that theory was interesting. It was funny.
Yeah, but perfectionist that he is, he made them shoot it on site.
That's over and over and over again. Shit. Jesus Christ. Now, when was the actual first moon landing?
July of 1967 or
69?
9. I want to say
And when's the
69.
last time? 69? When's the last time we went back up there?
Let's see. Last moon landing. Apollo 17 was the last moon landing. Oh, come on. 1972.
Now, I guess here's the first question, and probably one of the I guess one of the big talking points for people who believe that the moon landing was faked is why did we never go back? Or why was there never another human moon landing? Is it, and most conspiracy theorists are like, well, something was up there and they told us not to come back. I've heard some interesting stuff. I don't believe any of it, but it's kind of interesting if you think about it. Some people say that we were told not to go back. Some people say that we saw ancient ruins up there, and it was one of those things where we made an executive decision, if we will, not to meddle with it because we didn't understand it, or there was some type of warning signal that we were given that shows. What are your thoughts on us not going back? Is it one of those things that we just didn't need to,
Probably.
and it was that was the stepping stone of just going on to other planets, or what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's like we've been there, done that. But then again, we still build the International Space Station. We've already had a couple of those, but we keep making more and sending more people up for that. But it could just be the cost and then the danger of sending someone to the moon. It's like, well, we've been there. We got the rocks. We got the dust. What more do we want from there? But, interesting note, one of the astronauts that was kept in the capsule above that swung around the planet or around the moon, on when he's going to get down the dark side of the moon, reported, oh, there was a Santa Claus. Which a lot of conspiracy people think that was the code word for NASA for alien.
Aliens, yeah.
Which, technically, the only pictures we have of the dark side of the moon is from like satellites that we sent up there. Where people like as they're going around the other side to take a picture. And I don't know about you, but Photoshop, even back then, whatever they could have had back then, edited that out.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we're just gonna
absolutely.
grate over this mark right here that shows the alien landing site.
Well, that, and look at what for example, look at what the Russians, because this kind of ties into it. Think about all of the manned space shuttles or just space launches that they sent men out there with, and the majority of them failed, sadly. But they call them cosmonauts,
Yeah,
or
cosmonauts.
whatever the case may be. And in every one of those guys who didn't make it, or what was considered a failed experiment, they airbrushed those people right out. You have whole pictures of all these different astronauts, all these guys who were high level Air Force, officers at one time or another, you know what I mean? And almost all of them were brushed out. And you only have like 3 or 4 people who were actually successful, who actually made it there alive and were able to make it back. And then you have that one, I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, but you had like 2 amateur radio operators
that got the recording of the person saying like, "Oh, it's burning up in here."
Yeah, yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, like that was. I remember.
There's 2 Italian guys.
Yeah, I remember watching a story on that. That creeped me out. That kind of creeped me out. That they may have heard. Well, they did, I guess. They heard that guy's last words. You know what I'm saying? And to think that this guy's own country is like, okay, he didn't make it. Write him off, and we'll get the next person ready. I mean, that's a scary thing.
Should I add the audio to this? Because I just found it on YouTube.
Yes.
Is this the first woman in space? Although you can't hear it though, but let me turn this up.
No problem. You know me, I'm gonna watch it later.
Talk to me. I am hot. I am hot. According to Giovanni Giudicia Cordelia, the Soviet Union attempted to send the first woman into space on May 16th, 1961.
Oh.
Shows out to Twitter so you can have it too. I'll add the description box.
Jesus.
As I put in the description box, they actually have the translation in the description box of the video.
Oh, nice.
That's creepy.
Yep.
And the reason she's calm is because you can't actually see, like, on the outside of the capsule. She's inside of it, so she doesn't know that she's burning up in the atmosphere. She's trying to re-enter. She can't see the fire from the space capsule. That's why she's feeling hot, though, is that whatever's shielding, like what took out Columbia. The shielding failed. Well, apparently the shielding failed in the re-entry ship. That's why she was feeling hot, and then eventually it just exploded. Or burned up in the atmosphere.
I think it's situations like that that's scarier than the actual conspiracies.
And people ask, well, why didn't Russia try? Because Russia be like, yeah, you got there first, but we got there second, but we stayed longer. Because actually, like, at the time, it's like, yeah, you were the first to have a person in space, but we had a person in space longer. You had a woman in space, but we had a woman in space longer. You went around the planet 18 times. We had a guy go around the planet 22 times. So why didn't they try well, we got to the moon second, but we stayed there longer. We actually set up the guy up for like 18 hours. It's like, well, why didn't they ever try to go there? Was that something that we shared with them? Like, hey, don't go to the moon. It's haunted.
Which is yet again another one of the, which was another big part of the whole, the general conspiracy aspect of it is, oh, it was like you said earlier on, it's a way to bankrupt the Russians. And, hey, we keep doing these feats. Can you match them? You know what I mean? And Russia at the time was the other big guy on the block. So of course they felt obliged to do so, and they had the manpower, which Russia has always had, or the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
They always had plenty of people at their disposal. Hate to make it sound brutal like that. So of course they were going to do it. And I think in some ways it may have benefited us to exhaust their finances like that, but it's not worth it, I think, in the long run. So that's kind of why, one of the reasons why I should say that particular conspiracy theory kind of falls apart. But then you get into stuff like missing tapes, missing blueprints in general, some of the transmissions, as you heard, or some of the mechanical issues. Like there are certain things with landing on the moon and just space in general that you have to compete with, which is it's a little bit, it can put a lot of strain on you. And then you get into at least one argument that I found very interesting is we put all this time into going to space, but there's still, how much of the ocean, of our own oceans, do we really know about? You know what I mean?
Like the bloop noise?
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like there's so much here on our planet that we don't know about. So why are we investing so much in space? But then again, I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to live underwater? You know what I'm saying? We're going to go back to that? You know, we're not heading back to that. I don't think.
I would say when the sun starts expanding, it's 800 million years from now. Well, hopefully by then, we're out of the solar system.
Right.
But at least so you can't travel faster than light, so you'd have to make ships so large that they'd be impossible to launch. But if you launch them from the moon, like you send everything, small parts to the moon, build a base on the far side, then be like, all right, well, we built something that you couldn't build on Earth because it's just too damn big. But on the moon, with so little atmosphere, we can launch from here. Or from Mars, or from one of the moons of Jupiter or Saturn.
Yeah.
And if you do it from there, you can actually immediately use the gravity well from Jupiter or Saturn to like curve it around and launch it even faster. Because if you can't master faster light travel or wormholes, you're going to have entire communities just, all right, we got 10,000 people on here. Hopefully inbreeding doesn't kill them all off in 1,000 years. That they finally land on a planet that's habitable and they all look like Arkansas and Alabama. Yeah, my cuz wife's got 3 eyes and 1 arm, but she sure is pretty to me.
That's hilarious. You can breathe out of space. Well, that helps with the oxygen. Which also leads to another situation itself is let's talk a little bit about the photos and how people say that a lot of the photos have been altered. Now, as you said, you know, Photoshop's been a thing before Photoshop was actually a thing.
Hence the Russians wiping people out of photos.
So is it really fair, you know what I'm saying, to use that as an argument where, oh, it has to be all fake because look at what they did with a lot of the photos. Given that, you know, look, you got to understand, like the quality of photos back then were not so great either. And we've come a long way where now you can take a photo now from like the 20s and completely restore it, like easy. Like, I mean, shit, there's software you can do that at home now. People restore family photos all the time. So I think you can't completely depend on that. I do think that when people talk about the reflection that's actually on the astronaut's helmet, you know how it kind of it's a bit reflective. I think there are some interesting points of conversation if you wanted to go there with it. You know what I mean? There's some interesting points that are brought up about, hey, certain things aren't where they should be, even though it's just a reflection. I think that's an interesting point of conversation, but yet again, I don't know if that's enough. You know what I mean? Or certainly not enough for me. But one point that I would like to bring up is a lot of the astronauts themselves on the American side of it.
Buzz Aldrin has straight up punched people before for saying he didn't land on the moon.
Exactly. But not just that, but some of the stuff that they said they saw and or heard while they were out there, as you said earlier about the sighting of Santa Claus out there. I think almost every astronaut who's ever come back has said, and this is on the Russian side as well as the American side, said at least they saw or heard something. Now, granted, it's fair to say that you're in the vacuums of space. It's completely dark out there for the most part. You're good. The mind's gonna shift a little bit
and play tricks on you.
Yeah, it's gonna play some tricks on you. But who's to say what you saw and what you didn't? Here, give me just a second. I'll let you carry the conversation.
All right. Well, while he's gone. Also, there's a theory that the moon is hollow. They recorded rocks, meteors, asteroids, whatever hitting it, and the moon kind of ringing in a way, as if it were hollow. So it could be on the dark side of the moon. There's an entry to get inside the moon. And of course, some people say, oh, the moon's not actually a rock, it's actually a spaceship. It's how aliens keep track of us. And that's why we didn't go back, because we landed there, and then I was like, hey, get off our ship. Okay, we're just going to go back then and not go send anyone here again. But then again, we also had, what, 5 missions that landed? We sent more than 5, but only that many landed, because like, we all know what happened to Apollo 13 because of Tom Hanks. So yeah, like, we had certain people land there for a while, and then all of a sudden, for 3 years, like 5 missions landed, then they come back. So if it was aliens saying, hey, get off our rock, why didn't they tell Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, hey, get off our rock? Why did they wait for 1972 for 3 years about sending people up there and landing on there to say, hey, stop coming here. We don't want you here. And of course, obviously, costs, not just money-wise, but also lives. Going out there, you're going to get hit with a fuck ton of radiation. Now, yes, they kind of led the ships and they led the suits to keep that from being too big of a deal, but you get the astronauts that go out there for, I think one guy was out there for like 200 days and came back and he could barely walk because his muscles just weren't used to holding up weight. So you've got to think about the health of the astronaut, the lives of the astronauts, the cost to do it. But for me, though, it's mostly because been there, done that. Although, look at Mount Everest. We've been there, done that, but people are literally dying, waiting in line. Like, there's like people that get up, take a selfie, and they walk down, and someone's right behind them. Take a selfie, walk down. But then again, that's on Earth. It's right there, as opposed to the moon. God, just all the people that we sent up there, and like GGG said, that they've all said they've seen or heard stuff. But how people say, oh, it was Photoshop. Alright, we know that kind of existed back then, obviously wiping out the Russians. But if you're spending all this money to fake the moon landing, why would you screw it up that badly? Why would you be like, oh, we need to Photoshop this, but then Photoshop it poorly, or so forget stuff, like, oh yeah, the M here or that. Like, why would they do that bad a job? Also, if it was all being faked, why would they keep going back? Why didn't they just go, yay, we made it, but it's so dangerous, we're not going to risk it again? Like, if it is that dangerous to do, that you decide, alright, we're not going to do it again, why would you keep going back? It's just... It's gotta...
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that if they were faking it, why would they keep going back? Because each time you go back, you have a chance of screwing something up and being caught. And not just by the American people, but by Russia itself. Because again, that's my main stickler point of we went there, is because if we didn't, Russia would have bent us over a barrel and shown us all 50 states about it. And then they would have gone.
And all eyes were on us, so...
Because it wasn't just Russia, like United Kingdom, France, Germany. There's a lot of countries out there watching, waiting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like how do you hide that, especially from America's enemies, like Russia or China? There's no way they're going to let us fake that and be like, yeah, they faked it, we don't care. Kind of like if we tried to fake landing on the Mars. You really think China's going to let us get away with that? No, China's going to take it to us if we try to lie about that.
Exactly. With that being said, though, I'd like to bring up another point of conversation when we talk about some of the missing data that was missing. I want to focus mainly on the tapes, though, and I'll go ahead and focus on the case that is the most important because it was brought up in like, you know, it was well publicized, I should say, in the media, and it keeps being brought up every couple of years, but it's still an active. Most people say it's an investigation, but an active point of conversation even up till now is the Apollo 11 missing tapes, and how first they said that the tapes were lost, and I mean NASA. First they said the tapes were lost, then they said that the tapes never exist. Some people say the tapes never existed. Some said that they actually used those, they taped over them, or they reused them, if you will.
That's what I've heard.
What are some of your thoughts on that?
That they actually recorded over, which like So you have video of the moon landing, and you didn't think we should probably keep this, I don't know, in a safe somewhere with mark of, hey, this is the Apollo landing, moon landing. Don't record over this.
For posterity.
If that alone. It's not like nowadays where you put up a video, an hour later there's 10,000 copies of it on YouTube and VidMe and people's phones. Like no, there is one of a kind tape of this. You might want to protect it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also the government. We all know
That's-
that they are.
Yeah, exactly. So that's I think a problem, and people are still looking for these tapes actively. You know what I mean? Like people are combing through because they believe a lot of the employees or former employees, if you will, of NASA have made copies, and they're hoping that someone will eventually find them. But obviously, everybody wants the originals, and yet they've never really surfaced. And up until July 6th of 2019 of this year, people are still talking about them and still saying that certain parts are available. Some people have found reels from government surpluses and so on and so forth. But who knows? And they're up for sale. At least 3 of them. At least what I'm looking at right here. Supposedly first generation recordings. But are they really going to be? Are they really legit or not? Who could say? Here, right back.
Well, speaking of that, because obviously, how are you going to know until you buy it and test it? How are you going to test it? At this point, a little known fact: a lot of our computers, like the military uses, still use floppy disks. You know why? Because you can't hack that shit. Like all the modern technology we have today that can be hacked, you can't hack the older stuff because no, you're right. I'm 19-year-old spy from China, North Korea, Russia, whatever. I grew up with Windows XP and then moved on to Vista, then Windows 10. What the hell is this? This isn't even Windows. I don't know how to. I can't take the information off of this. I don't have a floppy disk. I can't read any of this information anyways because it's nothing I've ever seen before. So at what point is there? Well, we got the reels. Why are we gonna play those? Shit. But with color, well, not just color correcting, but like restoring old photos, you can find a lot of Civil War books now that have like color photos. So how do they have color? They didn't have color back then. They did have color. They just couldn't make the copy or whatever that you would get in color. It would always come out as black and white. But usually the original negative was in color. So people were able to go in and be able to, like, whatever with the technology to be like, oh, so that was a powder blue coat with a darker blue shirt. Just because, like, with the negatives, you can actually do that. With actual, like, all right, you take the photo out of the family album from 1917 and do that. I don't know how they do, but I know from the, like, actual negatives, you can do that. For a lot of the old black and white photos, but again, it's going to come to a point where, all right, fine, you buy the reels of footage. How are you going to play it? But that's the government for you. Where refusing to spend money on certain things and being obsolete actually paid off. Because now no one can hack the shit. Or in this case, all right, fine, you buy the reels. Oh, you can't play them. Although I guess if you got the money to buy the reels, because they're probably selling for a good chunk of change, probably have the money to find whatever they play on and buy one of those off a used site like eBay. Or Amazon. Yeah, back to the hollow moon. If the moon is hollow, why would it be hollow? Right, when it gets hit, it rings like it's hollow. How would it form? Because it does have gravity. It's 3. That's not as strong as say on Earth, but it does have gravity. With gravity, you have to have mass. If it's hollow, how much mass could it possibly have? Huh. And again, if there's an entrance on the other side, well, obviously, oh, there's an entrance to the moon on the other side of the planet. How about we don't send anyone over there because they're not going to come back? And we had to explain to anyone that asks, like, what happened to them? Unless you do it top secret. Little known fact, no one has ever died in outer space. They've died upon re-entry in the atmosphere, but they've never actually died in outer space. At least in America. Russia, yeah, who knows? Who knows what bodies they got floating around out there. But for America, as far as we know, again, but then again with the launching of a rocket from like Florida or Texas, whatever, yeah, you don't really hide those. Maybe they used a black site like Area 51, though. But all the photos say they don't have anything like a launch pad for something like that. But if I guess you're doing a solo mission, send one person up. I mean, yeah, I guess they could. You wouldn't need as large of a pad or as large of a rocket to send one person up, especially if you're not planning on bringing them back. Obviously, you don't tell them that. I mean, it's probably what Russia did. Russia probably sent a few people up without telling them that, hey, you're not coming back. What do you mean I'm not coming back? And launch. Yeah, just the way that people go on about the moon conspiracy landing thing or the Earth is flat, it's like, but we have proof. We got the thing you shine lasers at on the moon. Well, they could have done that with a drone or something like that. True, but we have the people who've been there. And we have Russia, or the Soviet Union, not ratting us out. Why would the Soviet Union keep quiet about that? Like with Barack Obama was born in Africa. Hillary Clinton would have destroyed him. If there was any evidence of that, Hillary Clinton would have taken it to him like she took it to Jeff Epstein. Like, if I could raise the money, I would definitely want to go to outer space. But I go to the moon? Probably not. But to go to outer space would be so cool. I was just like, no, well, they got Photoshop, they got this, Stanley Kubrick. It's like, yeah, but you're going to tell me Stanley Kubrick never talked? And also, you can't just, like, all right, I'm the director, you're the actor, go. Like, no, you have to have lighting, you have to have sound, you have to have equipment. So it takes people. So you got to expect the government to not just get these people, but find the right people who won't talk. Do a group project. See how that goes. It doesn't go well ever. So you want to expect me to believe that the government put a group project together to fake the moon landing multiple times with multiple people, and no one, after decades, has talked about it. It's been 50 years since the first moon landing, and again, you're going to tell me that no one decided to go, you know what? I got cancer, I'm going to be dead in 3 weeks anyways. Hey guys, guess what? We faked the moon landing. No. But that's the biggest issue with conspiracy theories, as they get to rely on people not acting like people. When people have a secret, they have to spill it. They always do. One way or another, they will eventually spill that secret.
Yeah, there's very few people who actually take it with them to the grave.
And a lot of them will take it to the grave because they were put in the grave, not because they lived long enough to take it to the grave.
Very true. Dead men don't tell no tales.
So as to rely on the conspiracy theories for just about anything, you gotta rely on the fact that they're able to put a group together, do it multiple times, and that none of them over the decades are gonna talk about it. But that could come into play of, right, well, we'll kill your entire family if you talk about this. Being blackmailed and all that. Yeah, I could probably see keeping my mouth shut. But look at Deep Throat. Deep Throat finally came out after how many decades?
Yeah, he did actually.
And it's like, so even something as top secret as that went on for decades, eventually, he spilled the beans. So you gotta believe that not a single person in decades was willing to spill the beans. But then again, you have questions that you can't answer, like, well, why didn't Russia try to go there and be there longer? Why didn't we stop after 72? Was it really the cost? Was it really the risk of lives? Like, or did something scare us away from it?
Could have been a combination of all three.
Could be like, hey, every time we send an astronaut there, they come back telling stories of people telling them, hey, get off our planet or off our moon or off our base. It's like, all right, well, either A, they're running into stuff, or B, going to the moon makes them crazy. Well, so we don't have a bunch of crazy people running around. We should probably not send any more up there.
Exactly, especially when you have people who have gone through the training and who are disciplined and of sound mind and body, and they almost all, well, not really, I mean, a good portion of them come back either saying the exact same thing or their experiences line up with what others have experienced. You have to know that there's something up. So it's best to kind of, okay, we went up there, we've gained as much data as we can. We can always go back, but for now, yeah, no more of this. You know what I'm saying? We won. The American flag's up there. If the Russians want to go up there and see what's going on, we're watching them anyway. So, or sorry, the Soviets. If the Soviets are up there and they want to go ahead and keep doing it, go ahead. We'll keep an eye on them. Until then, let's build a space station, which is what we eventually did.
And it's just, how many times do you need to hear, I saw Santa Claus, aka aliens, before it's either A, all right, sending them up there makes them go insane, or B, they're seeing shit.
Exactly. And either which way is not a good thing.
And it's not like these are low level, like, oh, we grabbed a janitor and threw him on a rocket. It's like, no, these are Air Force people. These are people who've been around jets and planes and all that. They know what they are.
And these are people who waited years upon years to have this opportunity to go. You know what I'm saying? Like the selection process is rigorous. You know what I mean? And some of the top candidates don't even get to go. You know what I mean? Like they only pick the best of the best. Now I think about it, I want to say it's Alabama, but it's one of the states on the East Coast where they have the most astronauts that came from that state.
Ohio.
Oh, Ohio, thank you.
There's something about Ohio that makes people want to get as far away from it as possible.
What? But like they have like the largest concentration of tried and true astronauts that are picked from there. I never found out why. I never really thought about it, but I just thought it was interesting that they always picked them all from there.
We've had the most in space. We've had the most on the moon.
Yes. So that's something to think about.
It's like, what is it about Ohio that makes people flee and tear into outer space? Just get up there and be like, oh yeah, there's aliens up here. Next time I want to send a shotgun with us. Which actually does work. Mythbusters tested that if a gun would work in a vacuum. Not only does it work, but it explodes because there's no resistance.
Now,
so all the gas and air just explodes everywhere.
Now, what's the new movie with Brad Pitt that's supposed to be
Ad Astra?
Yeah, where it looked like I don't know if they were on the surface of the moon, but he was on. They were in some type of there is some type of moon vehicle or space vehicle, and they're fired off weapons, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting.
Yeah, well,
it's entertaining.
They do. You can fire it once, but then it explodes.
Then it explodes, yeah.
Because there's no air pressure or anything to keep everything in. So this is not gonna work. There's no air. There's no oxygen. It's like you don't need oxygen. You got gunpowder. So the gun fired and it just the fireball from the gun just exploded everywhere. It's like so you could fire in outer space. It just wouldn't go very well for the person shooting. So it'd be a suicide mission.
Yeah. Which is what that movie's starting to look like. It don't look like Brad Pitt's character is going to be coming back on that one, but we'll see.
Or Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh yeah, Tommy Lee Jones who plays his father. Yeah, that's gonna be. But sorry about that. I just wanted to throw that out there. It looks interesting.
Well, it reminds me of a game where we have a base on one of the moons of Jupiter, and we found something that, when it affects something, it makes it immortal. And but we get there and you cannot bring this to Earth. Well, but we can make people immortal. Or we can make the Ebola virus immortal. We can make the flu immortal. We don't know what it's going to infect and how it's going to infect it. And so you go through the game, and at the end you decide to A, kill everyone, or B, let them go. Because if you let them go, well, they're coming to Earth with something that, no, oh yay, Grandpa's never going to die. Or you will always be sick because it infected the cold virus. Why the cold virus? We don't know, but it infected the cold virus. And now the cold virus is immortal. It cannot be defeated by your body or anything else.
Yeah, F that.
And it's when I watched the person play, they're like, yeah, screw that, and killed them.
Yeah, that might have been, as brutal as that may sound, that might have been the best way to go about it.
Like I said, you don't know.
Just imagine.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because again, it could be mundane like a person, or it could be rat. This rat breeds and infects other rats. Now, oh yeah, rats can no longer be killed. Oh, but I broke his neck. It doesn't matter. This thing makes them immortal. It will heal. Whatever this thing is, heals them. So, unless you burn them to a crisp, but even then, will the rats breed and spread? fuck it, burn the planet, live underwater.
Wow. Yeah, I was scorch and burn at that point. Better safe than sorry.
It was like one of those puzzle games where you got kind of like Portal, where you just there's no action, it's just solve all the puzzles. Then at the end, you have to make a choice.
Right.
It's like, do you feel for the characters that you've been following this whole time and spare them, or do you go, huh? They could literally destroy the planet with an immortal cold virus. We better take them out.
Yeah, better safe than sorry. Oh. Is there any other points that you'd like to hit on, my friend?
How come we never brought anything back from the moon? Like, how come we brought in rocks and dust, but
Right.
we found life forms in like frozen in Antarctica. You're gonna tell me there's not a single virus or bacteria or whatever that could have lived on the moon or on Mars?
Yet again, from an ethical standpoint, do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I mean, maybe you don't bring it back on purpose, but how come none of the moon rocks or dust have had like bacteria in it?
Right. You mean being exposed to it?
Yeah.
That's a very good question. Yeah, that's a very good question.
Well, fuck, they just found that picture of the guy from Antarctica. Like, he picked up something like, oh yeah, we found this sea sponge that went extinct, no, 22 million years ago, frozen in the ice. It's like, yeah, have you ever seen the movie, what was it? Not Them. John Carpenter, damn it.
Oh, you talking about the thing?
The Thing, yeah. Like, have you never seen The Thing? Why are you bringing up life forms that are frozen in the ice? Don't.
I love that movie. I still think that now that you brought that up, I'll try to be brief about it. I think because what it was our boy, it's Kurt Russell and it's the other dude at the end, right?
Yeah.
I think the other dude's infected, and I think Kurt Russell knows it, and he's like, all right, neither one of us are walking out of here, so we'll just wait it out. But I think the other guy's infected. I've always thought that.
Well,
sorry, I don't mean to spoil.
Well, you got that. Well, the movie came out what in the 80s.
Well, yeah, but you'd be surprised. Most people haven't seen it. It's a great movie too.
Because they got that end scene where the guy's chasing after the dog, saying the dog's infected, and then the remake of it, they never advertised that as a prequel. They just said, "All right,
nope.
The Thing." Then you watch like, wait a minute, that's because that's how it starts with the guy chasing after the dog. But then the remake's like, wait a minute, that's how the one from the 80s started. Holy shit, this is a prequel the whole time? Are you kidding me?
Nope.
Like, that was crazy. Like, how did you not advertise as the prequel? They just advertised it as The Thing. It's like, all right, so they remade it, all right, whatever. But then you get to the end, it's like, that's the beginning of the first movie. Oh my, boom, mind blown.
And the comic book is really good too. If you ever get a chance to get into it.
Didn't even know it was a comic. That sounds pretty cool though.
Yeah, there's actually on YouTube someone's already put a compilation of all of it together, so it ties in.
Nice.
So you can see basically the aftermath of it. It's a good read if you ever get a chance.
Or did you ever see the movie Life with Ryan Reynolds and a couple others?
If I had, I probably only watched it once.
Where they had something sent to Mars, it collected rocks, and it's actually sending something back. And they're gonna collect it in outer space because we don't know what's gonna be coming from Mars, what bacteria or virus might be on Mars. So we're gonna collect it in outer space with the contingency of, well, if it does infect anything, we can just say, fuck it, leave it in outer space. And it grows, it infects stuff. And then the one woman... Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, good, I'm sorry.
I just love the ending of that because it's like, all right, the guy's like, fuck it, I'm going to die in outer space. Let it attack me. I'll get in the capsule, launch myself in outer space while you launch yourself to Earth. Yay! Earth saved. And then they hit each other, and they get turned around, and so the guy who's infected lands. It's like, damn it, that should have been the beginning of Venom. That's how they should have started Venom, because they're both made by the same company. So that should have been like, well, we already got the scene shot, so we can save ourselves a few $100,000. I'm not having to reshoot this shit.
Oh, no. My bad. I didn't mean when you were talking about the lady first, then you were going to kind of draw the situation out. I was hoping you were going to start there.
Oh, eh.
Right after they collected it and they realized that something was wrong. She was the first one to get infected, right? Or was she the one who realized what they were up against?
She was the first one that realized what they were up against.
Yeah. And then everything went to like hell after that.
And I was like, oh.
Because it wouldn't, because they couldn't like get rid of it, right? Like they would try to get it off the ship, or they would try to try to detach parts of the ship, and they just couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah, because they would jump from one thing to the other. Like on the outside, it's like, it's surviving outer space. How's this thing immortal?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, they sent a rocket. They're going to save us. Like, no, it's pushing us out of space. They realize something's wrong. And they can't let
Mm-hmm.
whatever's wrong get to Earth. So they're going to launch us out of space. Which,
That
actually,
wouldn't
I
be
think
fun.
that's how they should do it. They should, if they ever collect anything from Mars, do it like how they did with no, they have a drone that collects stuff, launches in outer space. We collect in outer space just in case. Like, oh,
True.
suddenly suddenly every astronaut on the spaceship got sick. Yeah, we're not letting you come to Earth because you're going to kill everyone. Because obviously
Yeah,
we don't
that's
have any
probably
antibodies against it.
yeah, that's probably the best way to do it. It's gonna be a suicide mission either which way. Yeah,
Like,
it's gonna be a
I
suicide.
would not want to be the first. It's like, as much as I'd love to be the first person to step on Mars, I don't know if I want to be taking that risk.
Nah. Nah, I'm not. Everybody wants to be the first. Everybody wants to be the first at something until they're actually the first of something. Then nah,
Then all of a sudden it's like,
I'll
yeah, you
pass.
got this space virus in you. You're dead. You're not allowed back on Earth.
Or that space virus makes you immortal, and you can't, and you'll spread it to everybody else, and you can't control it. Yeah, no one
And then
wants
they
that
launch
either.
you into outer space, but you're immortal, so you don't die. So you just get deeper and deeper into. Well, there you go. Now you'd be the record for the farthest any man's ever been in space. First person to fly
Actually,
past the asteroid belt.
actually, imagine that. Imagine you being okay. Let's say like because if you're obviously in a spacesuit, it's not going to last long because you're going to eventually run out of oxygen. Yeah, but you're immortal. Yeah. So just imagine you keep like well you can't die because you're immortal but just imagine you going through the pain of trying to breathe but you can't breathe but you can't die either and you're just kind of floating around through space like that. Holy shit. No, fuck all that sucks.
Like, please launch me into the sun. Don't launch me into the asteroid belt. Launch me into the sun. I was the first person on Mars. I want to be the first person on the sun. Damn it.
Yeah, that would suck. That'd be
Because you'd have to hope that the sun would be hot enough to burn whatever the thing that's infecting you with.
exactly. And if not you're just constantly cooking. Holy shit. Oh boy. All right. Wow.
Well, that got dark real quick.
Yeah, I did. I apologize.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, I have nothing else left to cover.
Oh, okay.
So whatever you want to do.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much my last talking point. But that's pretty much the kind of in a rough sort of way. That's kind of the situation when it comes to it. Just a second, guys.
Someone's a busy pup. Oh, it's probably Snortbucks launching the new line of drinks. Gotta make sure everything's going right. Well, this was a lot of fun. I like doing these videos. I like talking about this stupid shit that I know too much about, but I don't have anyone else to talk with because no one else I know is interested in it. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And I think like last time, he's going to eventually put it up on his channel so you can watch it over there as well. Give this Pup in a Sharp Suit all the love as well. Check out his channel. I'll make sure to have that in the description box as well. God, I'm going to have to remember to add this audio from the female cosmonaut. Yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come in, come in, come in. Listen, listen, come in. Come in, come in, talk to me, talk to me. I am hot, I am hot. So yeah, most likely she was burning up in the atmosphere. God damn. Going through the comments and all that, people talking about like, yeah, no, native speaker here. This is their like, she's from the southern countryside. Like they can tell like where her accent came from.
Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, so
You're fine.
yeah, so to close all that out, the conspiracies are far and wide. I would have to say that somewhere in between all of that, there has to be something legitimate. There has to be some type of truth to all of it. But I think when you look at either Area 51 or the moon landing. I think you have a group of people who just can't let it go for whatever reason. And for everybody else, you just know, you know what I'm saying? You've gotten older. You kind of let some of that go, if you will. You kind of just have a better understanding of how the world works. That does not mean that there aren't nefarious forces out there doing things. It doesn't mean that there aren't people lying to you, especially people within the government or, you know, people in elected positions and so on and so forth. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that some of the stuff you can use some reasoning and you can get past it. It doesn't mean everything's true, nor does it mean everything's right, but the majority of it can be explained away. But that doesn't mean that from a historical standpoint that there isn't any value to it. So hopefully this video here will lead you into what we're going to go over next, which I propose, and like I said, I'm only one part of this podcast, is Operation Paperclip. I think that would be I think that should be our next point.
I'm game for it.
Sweet.
I have to find the Microsoft Paperclip from Word to have him join us.
and for some of you who don't know what Operation Paperclip is, it is considered basically the arms race for German scientists, Nazi German scientists, if you will. Or Nazi scientists is how most people just classify them. But Nazi scientists from, let's see, the Russians were involved in that. Obviously, the Americans were, maybe even the Brits, but certainly between the Americans and the Soviet Union, to get their hands on as many of these scientists as possible, bring them into our country, give them whole new identities, and put them in positions to basically help us with either our space programs, weapons development, and so on and so forth. The reason why I think that's an important conversation is not just that, but also we're going to get into the rat line too, which is how a lot of these people were able to get out of Germany in the first place. I'll go ahead and let James sign us off. Thank you guys very much for listening in. I'm your boy GTG, and I'm out.
Thank you, GTG, for that. And yes, it will be Paperclip. I know some things about it, but not as much as like I knew about this or the JFK stuff, so I'll have to look into it for a bit. One thing I'd like to point out, let's say the UFO, the blades on the bottom, and they moved them to the top, eventually called them helicopters. What if that was done 10 years earlier? What if on D-Day, instead of having to use a bunch of ships, we had also helicopter support? This thing, you had the helicopters flying over, playing Ride of the Valkyries. Then they launch their rockets, got people on the sides with the big machine guns, just mowing down the Nazis. That'd be one hell of a scene. That'd be one of those anachronism movies you get to watch, like A Knight's Tale, where they have the people in the crowd doing "We Will Rock You" and all that. That'd be funny. That'd be cool to see. Just like, what if America had helicopters in the 30s? So during D-Day, they just flew a bunch of helicopters over as well. Launched a shit ton of rockets, guys with machine guns laying down cover fire. It's like, we don't need to store on the beach. We can just walk into the beach. So that way people aren't being mowed down as they're getting on the beach. People aren't drowning because, we ran the ship aground and now everyone's going to drown. But they're able to take their time with it. That'd be pretty cool. I love what-if stories.
And sorry guys, and how when you look at how some of the territory was carved up, it'd have been if the Americans, for example, had access to some of that equipment, it'd be carved up a little bit differently too, because who's going to say anything about anything? We have, when we have the upper hand, obviously. You know what I mean? Instead
of Soviet Union conquering Berlin, it would have been us conquering Berlin. Like, we got there 2 days before the Russians did. This is now our city. So there's no East Berlin, West Berlin. There's no wall. Because it's our city. Fuck you.
And Stalin would have been pissed if that happened. He'd have been pissed if that had happened.
So would he have attacked the Allies?
Yep. But what's he going to say, though?
Like, sorry, we took a couple days too late to get here? Yeah, but then he shows up, it's like, oh shit, they already did it. Well, fuck, I want Berlin.
Yep.
So does he attack the Allies? Now he's got United Kingdom, he's got France, he got us. It's like, yeah, you're kind of boned. And they still had to deal with the Japanese, because the Japanese were still going after him.
Mm-hmm. And what that also does, too, from a historical standpoint, I promise, guys, my last point, is that is when you think about who actually finds Hitler's body first, or the remainders of it. You know what I'm saying? What's left of it. The story of what happened to Adolf Hitler in the end has been changed multiple times. They said that it's been changed multiple times. Now, does the story stay the way the Soviets told us? Does the Americans put its own spin on it? Do we actually get the truth? Do we actually find out what really happened to Hitler in the end? I don't doubt that Hitler and Eva Braun shot themselves in the bunker. I have no doubt about that at all. The question is, where's the bodies?
I was say like, oh, the Soviet Union got there, and they found the bodies. Like, all right, well, Mussolini was hung from the ropes. Why did you not present the body if you found the body?
Well, they did find the double. They found the body double outside.
That was probably as an attempt at like, oh yeah, don't look inside. Here's his body.
Yeah, and then obviously they said that they had taken it out there and burned Hitler, Eva Braun, along with the Goebbels. They ended up with their children and stuff. They supposedly they were all burnt there, and then they said they buried the remains, and then they said they moved it here, and then they said they moved it there. And as you know,
Trying to keep people from turning it into a shrine.
Right. And then, as you guys know, or some of you may know, Stalin actually had the largest private collection of Hitler artifacts, basically. Like, he had a bunch of his dinner jackets, some of his boots, he had some of his early paintings, watercolors, things like that. And that was like stuff that was under like lock and key. Only him and like two other people had access to it. And even then, they never actually went in there. Only Stalin did. So that's something to think about too. What would have happened if that stuff would have been displayed over here in the U.S.? You know, maybe would have had a museum for stuff like that.
Like you go to Smithsonian, they have a Hitler wing or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Which sadly, it probably would have been turned into a shrine, if you will. You know,
yeah.
That's hence the reason why they changed they changed where Hitler's mother is buried. I don't know if they moved her body or they just made it harder to find. I can't remember what the case was. But they did it because it was starting to turn into a shrine, and people were making these almost holy pilgrimages.
Yeah.
So that was the thing.
God, people are weird.
Very.
Well,
all right, guys. So for real, I'm out now.
All right. You have fun, GGG. And with that, I'm out. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check out his channel. As always, like, subscribe, comment down below, and have a wonderful day.
Sweet.